Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome to another plugin knowledge session. In this video, we're going to have a look at the plugin Decapitator from Soundtoys. So firstly, if you're new to my channel and you like what you see, click the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell to be notified of all future videos as they come out. So, Decapitator by Soundtoys. This is a great saturation / distortion plugin. I love this plugin. I use it all the time. It is it just sounds great on everything. From using it subtly with a tiny little bit of distortion to add extra harmonic content and just bring an instrument out of the mix a little bit, to pressing the punish button and just crushing the heck out of a track and creating just maximum distortion and changing the entire sound of something. You can do everything from this plugin, including having different emulators and everything else, and it is a really good plugin. Now, it includes 5 different saturation emulations, all of different types from different hardware units, etc., and what they've based it on. And each of those can be pushed as little or as much as you like to get the maximum distortion, and you can flick between them to hear the different sound qualities of each. You can then mix in an amount, so you could put a lot of distortion but mix the mix control down and just blend a little bit of that distortion in, which can be really good on a bass track if you want to bring the bass out and add a little bit of grit and growl to that bass, but with still retaining the cleanness of your low end, etc. So I've been using this plugin for a long time now, since it's been released basically, and I love using it, and a lot of top mix engineers use this plugin. It's used everywhere. So, without further ado, let's just get into it and I'll show you what it can do. So we have a bass guitar track here, and I've just placed this directly on it. So we'll have a bit of a play with it and see what we get. The interface is very simple. It's very nice. And we will just quickly run through the controls. So the drive control here is obviously one of the main controls that we do. And that just sets the amount of drive or amount of saturation that is occurring. So it's how much we are pushing this analog device to get the distortion or characteristics that we want out of it. This lovely button here called Punish basically is just an on-off switch, and what that does is it just adds an extra 20 dB of gain to the signal being sent through Decapitator. So I guess you can imagine that we've got our drive set, we've got our things here, and we're getting a bit of distortion. We click this button in, suddenly we've pushed in an extra 20 dB of signal into this plugin. So we are really getting a lot of distortion, and hence the name Punish. You will hear it. It will punish your signal. We've got a little VU meter here that they're calling attitude, and this is basically measuring the signal coming into the plugin. It's not the signal going out. So the harder you push it, the more distortion you're going to get. So this is determining how sort of hard you're hitting this plugin. We have a little toggle switch here called Thump, and what that does is it sort of works in conjunction with this low cut knob here. So we'll quickly go through that. The low cut knob here, as you can see, goes from 20 Hertz to 1K. So if we want to cut a bit of the low end out during the phase of going through this plugin, so if we've got something very low and with the added distortion it's not sounding very good anymore, we can put this low cut in and just sort of cut to a frequency that I like. So if we want to thin it out a lot, we could go very high, or we could just take a bit of the rumble off down the bottom. Now when we engage the thump, what that does is it adds a little bit of a boost around the spot where we're actually cutting. So we just do a little bit of a boost here, and then we cut the rest below that. So that can help if you've got something where you want to cut just around just below the fundamental of the instrument. So if it was a kick, say, and the kick was hitting at 60 hertz, you might set this in a position which sort of, obviously there's no numbers, so it's a bit of a guess, might sit just below 60 hertz. And then if you engage this thumb control, it'll actually do a bit of a boost at that 60 hertz before the cut, and just gives you that little bit more impact to your instrument there. On the other side, we have a high cut similar to the low cut, but obviously in reverse. We're going from 1K to 20K. So if we've got a signal that's a little bit bright, we want to dull it down a bit, we can obviously roll off the top end of it and cut it down. And to go in conjunction with that, we have this little switch here called steep. And what that does is just changes the curve of your cut on the high end. So with the switch off, the normal state in the manual is stating that it is a 6 dB per octave roll-off, so a nice gentle slope. But if we were to engage this, we then suddenly get a very steep roll-off of 30 dB per octave. We have a tone control in the middle here, and it's pretty obvious what it does. We've got dark on this side, we've got bright on this side. So if we turn it this way, our signal starts to get a little bit darker to very dark. If we go the other way, we can brighten it up a little bit, or straight down the middle, really has no impact at all. We have an output knob and this little auto switch here. With the auto switch off, if we drive a signal here, then what it will do is it will instantly get louder because of the drive. So we can compensate for that by reducing our output knob. So if we want to be able to bypass on bypass and hear the true effect without any volume increase, that is what we would do. But we also have this auto setting here, and if I adjust the drive, you'll see the output control is also moving. So it is in theory compensating for it. I have found on occasion that it's not as accurate as I like, and I have actually had a tendency to overrule it and adjust the output manually. We have a mix knob here, which is again clearly labeled wet dry. Go all the way to dry, we get none of the plug-in and purely the dry signal. Fully to the other side, we get all of the wet, so all of the distortion and none of the dry signal, or we can blend a bit of each in and go slightly dry, slightly wet, whatever you want to do. And then we have these buttons down the bottom here, which is style. And these styles here are the choice of what sort of analog device that they have modeled is being emulated here. And each one of these is going to have different characteristics, different sound, different way they distort. So the A setting here is listed as a model of an Ampex 350 tape drive preamp. The E setting here is modeling a Chandler EMI TG channel. The N model here is based on a Neve 1057 input channel. The T style here is based on the Thermionic Culture Vulture. I hope I said thermionic right. I don't know if it is. It's an unusual name, but that's what that one's based on. So this is a bit more of a slightly more modern sound. That is in the triode setting on that device. The P again is from the Culture Vulture, but it is the pentode setting. So that has a different sound to the other one. So I've placed this on a bass guitar, as I said, and at the moment I've got it bypassed, and this is what the bass sounds like. Now, if we bring this in here, and I'm just going to set it to a 5, I'll leave it here. We'll play with all these settings here, and then we'll switch through the different types. So you can hear there, even though it's set to auto, instantly I hear it get louder. So this is where I say that I don't necessarily trust this auto setting. It doesn't, to me, work as efficiently as I like, so I will generally overrule it. In this case, I'm going to leave it because I'm just going to be playing with the settings. So the drive knob is just doing that. So you can clearly hear what the punish button does there. It truly does punish it. So let's say we want to do a bit of a mix here. Let's drive it quite hard. Maybe brighten it up a little bit. Take a bit of top end off, a little bit of low end off. And I've got it set to fully dry at the moment. So let's compare going dry, fully wet, and then blending some in. So you can hear there just blending a little bit in there. Still keeps the character of the original bass sound, but just adds a little bit of grit, a little bit more top end to it, especially in this case that I brightened it up. And you can hear there that it would start to get it sort of cut out of the mix a little bit and be a lot easier to hear. So let's take it back to fully wet again, and now let's flick through the different types. So it's pretty obvious there that there's quite a bit of difference between each one of these. And obviously you can adjust your settings to suit to get the exact sound that you are looking for. So as I said, this is a very good plugin. I love using this on bass guitar, as I have done here, to sort of just give the bass that little bit of extra grit. Also works really well on things like Rhodes and, you know, a bit of organs and stuff like that, where you just want to give a little bit of extra life, a little bit of grit. You can obviously go extreme here, like I said, with punish and do some really wild distortion, but otherwise you can just add a little bit of subtle drive to it, or even, as I did before, drive it quite hard, but then just blend the mix in a little bit just to give that little bit of character. So there you go. There is Decapitator by Soundtoys. As I said, I use this plugin all the time. It's used by lots of people. It's very much loved in the industry. So check it out, get a demo of it, try it out on your mixer, see if you like it and what you can do with it. I did forget to mention at the start of the video that this is an older video that was on my website, hadn't quite got it to YouTube yet, but because it's a plugin I love and use all the time, I wanted to share it with you on YouTube, so hence I have released it and brought it out of the vault, or whatever you want to call it. So hopefully the quality was okay. Hopefully I was not too boring in it, and you still got a lot of value out of the video. If you did like the video, then don't forget to click the like button, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to be notified of all my future videos, and hopefully it's been helpful. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.